Welcome back, everyone. This is J.R. Platter. I'm the host of The Secrets of Government Contracting, and our distinguished guest this week is Command Sergeant Major retired Patrick Alston. Sir, thank you and welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Patrick, I'll pass the floor directly over to you. Tell our viewers and our listeners a little bit about yourself and your experiences in this government contracting world.
So first of all, I was very honored to have a distinguished military career, about 35 and a half years, rising from the rank of E1 to Command Sergeant Major, and blessed to be the battle buddy of several general officers at the COCOM level. I was very fortunate to be at United States Strategic Command for about 5.5 years. And I would tell you from that perspective, I learned so much about the government, the ins and outs of the government, and how the government really allows DOD to get after what our number one priority is, and that's fighting our nation's wars. But I would tell you that more so than my time at StratCom, my time at DITRA, and a small stint at the White House really showed me the interagency perspective and how our nation really relies on our government employees from the civilian perspective in order to really get after being an holistic government that comes together in all facets to get after what I said earlier, and that's defending our nation and allow freedom to reign in this country. My other, I think, really value added perspective came when I did some engagement with the State Department and seeing how the State Department relies on the whole of government to get after doing what it's doing each and every day. And you know, when we look at the DIME concept, we really want to make sure that the D, the I, and the E, diplomatic, informational, and educational, is the parts that we rely on heavily before we get to the M part. Economics, not education, excuse me, economics. We rely on heavily before we get to the M part of military. And so from that perspective, Mr. JR, I think that I've had the opportunity to be able to sit in positions and see things that allow me to understand holistically how DoD as a whole works, how DoD as a whole require on the uniform wears as well as the non-uniform wears to have a whole of government engagement so freedom will reign in our country.
Great. Thanks for that. Thanks for your service. Sounds like you've served at the highest levels of our government in many capacities. So thanks for all that. Talk to us a little bit about now that you're out of uniform. I know you're working at the National Defense University as a senior fellow. That keeps you quite busy. Talk to us about your work in the government contracting space and all the experiences you have and how they come to bear here.
Well, so at the National Defense University, I'm really a senior fellow to mentor, coach, teach, and train the upcoming leaders of tomorrow. But I would think most of my contract experiences has really came with an organization out of Omaha, Nebraska called Burlington Capital. And Burlington Capital is one of the leading real estate financial institutions that really get after not only doing what they do on the civilian perspective, but also get after what they do when it comes to supporting our homeless veterans. They have established homeless veterans villages in 3 locations, and that really ties into doing contracting, supporting with the VA, getting the VA to really get after being able to establish clinics in these 3 locations and provide those services that will take a homeless veteran one day and make him a value added citizen one day. And so in that transition prospect, not only do Burlington Capital provide the homes, but the contracting part comes in when they tie the ribbon very tightly with the VA to ensure the VA can give back to that veteran when it comes to looking at his disability, his medical health, his general health, and all other aspects that come with making him prepared to transition back to being a value-added citizen. And then also Burlington Capital have an organization called Clean Core Solutions. Clean Core Solutions is an organization that deals with aqueous water, and the way that is happening in the government is that they are leaning heavily on the government for perspectives of cleaning dormitories, cleaning ships, cleaning institutions, facilities. And so, from that perspective, I see exactly how the contracting world, how you dot the T's, I mean, how you cross the T's and dot the I's in order to get those contracts to be value added contracts that benefit not only the institution that has the product, but also the government who needs that product to get after what they have to do. So I think from those two perspectives, I really am able to see just how this thing called contracting really works, how this thing called being prepared, making sure you have that right proposal, making sure you have that right product and entity for the government, and then being able to present it, whether it's labor or whether it's an item, the right way so the government can then buy it and enhance their ability to do what they have to do within their mission.
Great, thanks for that. Um, Very valuable insights. So when I think of Patrick Alston, other than being an extraordinary leader, I see a extraordinary relationship builder. Talk to us about the importance of building and sustaining relationships in life and business.
Yeah, I would tell you, there's one thing that I share with my wife all the time, that to me, relationships are the cornerstone to any success. It is not about what you know, it's about who you know. Who you know that will crack the door open for you to have the opportunity to step in and demonstrate your value. A lot of times we tend to think that people are measured only by their abilities, in which they are to a point, but who gives them that opportunity to share those abilities and who give that opportunity to demonstrate those abilities? That's where that relationship building comes in. And relationship building is not only important for the moment, but it's important for lifelong opportunities. And I think that at the end of the day, I always go off of this saying of why not now? No opportunity wasted. And, I believe that in that 86,400 seconds that's in a day, that 1,440 minutes that's in a day, that you can take that and build an opportunity off of a relationship that you have built with somebody. Because everybody needs somebody to do something. The issue is, can you deliver what that something is, or have you built a relationship with somebody who can help deliver what that something is? And that's that reach back capability that we sometimes fail to utilize. If we get a good perspective on how we can utilize the relationships that we've took the opportunity to build over our lifetime, then there is no gaps or seams that can be produced, because those relationships will allow us to tap into somebody that can provide whatever that requirement is. And so I always tell my wife, relationships to me are the most important aspect of any person's life, because we don't know all, we can't do all, we can't see all. But those relationships we build give us an opportunity to leverage others that may be able to see things differently, be able to do things differently, and be able to articulate things differently than the way that we can, in order to get after helping ourselves or helping whoever may need help.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point, and I knew you were going to mention this. But it's all about giving long before it's about receiving in
Yes.
relationship building. Give, 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 long before you ever expect to receive. So when
Yes.
I'm a new person starting out in this business, I have a small network, I have a small capability. There's 5 phases of my business. I got to identify opportunities. I got to qualify those opportunities. Then I have to go out and capture them, write a proposal, the fourth phase, and then the fifth phase, finally, win and perform. So where do I have the time to relationship build across those 5 phases?
I would tell you that in each one of those phases, there's time to build relationships. Because as you're building those phases, you're going to run into issues and concerns that maybe you are not aware of, or you do not know how to handle. That's where those relationships come in. That's where dialing that phone, or in today's generation, using that phone, to tap into somebody else's experience and knowledge. Experience and knowledge are gained really by the opportunities others have had in their lifetime. And their opportunities and their experiences are so much different usually than your experience and your opportunities. And so by tapping into them would help build those 5 phases of execution, I will call them. In each one of those phases of execution, you may find yourself facing an entity that you're not familiar with or you're not really on point with. And that's where that relationship building comes in. It's built from the perspective of conversation. It's built from the perspective of trust. It's built from the perspective of knowledge, nuggets, and points.
Hmm. Yeah, I use the mnemonic advice, information, and referrals. What advice do you have for me? What information do I need that I don't have? And who should I talk to next? That's a great way to relationship build. But always, especially here and now, we're in the social media world. It's so easy to give now. Find information that's relevant to someone else and give it to them.
Yes.
Connect two people that you know that need to be connected. That's a
Yeah.
gift. You've just given something. So you don't have to have tangible assets in your hands in this day and age to give, give, give. All right. So next thing, we are called the secrets of government contracting. So one of the requirements of being a distinguished guest is you have to give up one of your secrets. So what do you have for us today, Patrick?
So, and I would tell you, Mr. JR, you have really captured my secret. Unequivocally, my secret is relationships. My secret is taking the opportunity to build relationships that are long lasting relationships. And something you said that was very profound was in the giving perspective, it's not about that tangible thing, it's about time, it's about trust, it's about an ear sometimes. And so my secret in this success in the contracting world is the relationship building, is getting to know people, getting to value people, getting people to value me, and getting people to build a baseline of trust. So when I do run into something in that 5 points of execution, which you mentioned earlier, I do have those reliable sources to reach back to, those reliable sources to talk to, and to be able to get good advice, good information, so I can then have good perspectives of execution. And so my secret is really, and I would tell anybody, if you can build relationships with individuals that have walked a different path than you have, then you just increase your ability to be even more successful. If your circle is built off of individuals that look like you, think like you, and act like you, then who is making you better? Who is sharpening your iron? Let me give it a quick analogy. Mr. JR, a former enlisted military member in the United States Marine Corps that transitioned to become an officer in the United States Marine Corps, that went on to get his doctorate degree, that went on to establish a very successful company. That is totally different than my path. An enlisted member of the United States Army, stayed enlisted member, did a tremendous amount of years, learned a tremendous amount of things, but never donned a Marine Corps uniform. Never went to Marine Corps boot camp. Never went to Marine Corps OCS. Never got a doctorate degree. So now if I'm in a circle with Mr. JR, I have just been able to leverage some experiences he had that I would never have. But I still may run into some issues or concerns that he has faced that he could help me navigate much easier than I would have if I tried to navigate just on my experiences and knowledge. That's the reason why that relationship building is so important, because it gives you more than just your perspective. It gives you the perspective of others that see it different, handle it different, and have a different capstone that will allow you to get to your capstone that much better. Over.
Oh, thanks for that. That's powerful, powerful insight. Something we might not necessarily think about is we're trying to create business within a certain stovepipe. It might make sense to us to ask people in that stovepipe for advice, information, or referrals, when the right thing to do might be, it should be looking outside of that stovepipe. So I've done the A and the I with you. I've asked you for advice. I've asked you for information. Now I'm going to ask you for a couple referrals. Who should we talk to next as a distinguished guest? A couple of names for us, if you don't mind.
So I see three people that I think that would be able to really give value added injects for this podcast. Those three individuals I see is Bonnie Swanson, National Defense University. She gives you a perspective of dealing with the DOD's greatest leadership from the first class that she conducted, General Mattis, who went on to be Secretary of Defense, all the way to class probably 54, 55 she's conducted now. And all of that knowledge and experience that has transitioned from class 1 to where she is today. There's nobody that knows the entity of how to mentor, coach, teach, train, and mold tomorrow leaders better than Bonnie Swanson. Admiral Cecil Haney. Admiral Cecil Haney will give you perspective from the institutional knowledge of how to be a successful individual that transitioned from the great city or state, however you want to define it, of Washington, D.C., to becoming one of the most powerful admirals in the United States Navy. And then how he matriculated from being a part-time worker at the Navy Yard to becoming a 4-star admiral in that same domain, Navy domain. I think he has a tremendous wealth of knowledge and a tremendous ability to articulate how he was able to transition and become who he is. And then the last person that I think would be very value added and will give a perspective of the NUG work for how to get in the government and the ability to be successful in the government contractor is none other than our very own Joe. I think Joe will give you the perspective of how do you see these opportunities, how do you address these opportunities, how do you shape these opportunities, and then how do you make these proposals move forward. And so I would say that just the short amount of time that I've been around Joe and understanding the dynamics of how he make things come to life on paper in the proposal perspective, him and his team, not just him, but his entire team. So maybe that should be a team podcast, maybe. But they have the ability to take words and make them action and allow the customer to read and understand what Platter brings to the table without ever meeting them, if that makes sense to you. So those are
makes
my
perfect
three.
sense. Yeah, three great names, three great leaders. All right, sir. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know it's going to be very valuable for our readers and listeners. Have a great week, and hopefully see you soon.
All right, thank you. Enjoy yourself. Thank you so much for doing this. I will tell you that, we fail to understand sometimes what it takes to reach people. I think that you have that gift to be able to reach people and to be able to give them something back that's greater than any tangible or monetary thing you could give them, and that's knowledge, and that's the ability to have an opportunity. If we really want to get after making this nation great, then we have to provide those opportunities, those informational points for people, informational perspectives for people, and that's what you do. So we thank you for continuing to give back, for continuing to care, and for continuing to mold, coach, teach, and train tomorrow leaders today. Because as you all know, someday you would have to hang up the umbrella and move on to greater pastors, and there needs to be another person prepared to step in and give back the same way you've given back, sir, over the amount of years you have done so. We salute you. We thank you. And we know that this podcast is only a small token of things you have done for us. So
thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You have a great day too, sir. Bye.